What's up, guys? It's so good to see you guys here live tonight for an episode of Pounders Quest. And for those of you that don't know, I've started a new channel. That's right, it's called Pounders Quest, and it's on YouTube. And the link is in the description. And I'm going to be interviewing so many different kinds of people. I mean, I've got like just so many really interesting interviews coming up, and I can't even divulge how interesting some of these are, at least to me. And if you've enjoyed any of the interviews that you've seen me do on Now You See TV over the years, this is going to be your channel to go check those things out. The episode that you're getting ready to see tonight is with Thomas Winterton, and he is on the cast of The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. Many of you guys have seen this show if you've watched TV at all. It is on major television. It's been on for like a decade, and Thomas has been at the ranch for many, many years. I think 7 to 10 years. I can't remember exactly how many he said when I interviewed him. And so tonight I wanted to play this interview. This will be actually the last Pounders Quest interview, one of the last, maybe the last. There's a chance that I might re-air one of them over here in the future. But as of right now, this will be the last Pounders Quest that I air over on Now You See TV. I'll still be doing the Midnight Ride over here and still be doing other things over here. But as far as me interviewing people, I'm doing them all over there. And part of the reason for that is because I don't want to, there's a lot of new believers and stuff like that here on Now You See TV. I don't want to muddy the waters with stuff. Interviews and stuff like that are going to be more for people who are more mature in their thinking and able to process different information without it completely ruining their mindset. And so I wanted to do it over there for that reason. And we're going to have a few people joining us in live. So some of you guys have already seen this. This was over on Pounders Quest yesterday. And so that's one advantage to subscribing over to Pounders Quest is you get, if I do air these again, you're going to get them first over there. And there's going to be a lot of stuff that we do over there that's a little bit different than we do over here on Now You See TV. It's going to be more of a fun channel. Doing a little bit different kind of stuff. I'm actually going to be doing some interesting like coding into it to make it more like quest-like, even maps and, just random little things like that to make it more fun for some of the random shows because it's all about this quest and this quest for truth. So I hope you guys enjoy what I'm going to be doing. Let me know what you guys think about it. And if you do support what I do, like please go over there and check it out because ultimately, I'm doing this for you guys. There's not a lot of things in this world that I'm good at, and I'm just going to be real with you guys. There's a lot of people that are good with so many things, and God's blessed them with the looks, the voice, the talent, all of the different things. And the only thing I'm good at is being a walking billboard for God and just spreading His light. That's really all I'm good at. And so if I can do that in another way, I'm wanting to do it and wanting to hopefully add a new audience. So pray for the venture. Hopefully it'll be good. And guys, stay tuned tonight. I hope you guys enjoy this. I'm going to be in the chat. Let me know what you think.
The world keeps lying, but he won't retreat on his quest for truth. Yeah. Truth. Quest for truth. They can't stop me, they can't block me. Moving through. Got that fire, they can't block me. Quest for truth. Breaking chains, making waves. That's what I do. When they hate, I create.
One of the best shows on television, in my opinion, Skinwalker Ranch. And I have Thomas Winterton. And I had the opportunity of meeting Thomas at a conference not too far from here called CryptidCon in Kentucky. And so I kept his contact, been wanting to have him on for a while. And so now's the time. So we're having him today. Thomas, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. I know you have a ton of things. I wanted to have you at our conference, and I know you were filming for Skinwalker Ranch for the new season. And so I know you have a lot to talk about. I've got some cool things I want to bring up to you and show you that I found that I want your opinion and thoughts on as well. But for people who are listening today from our channel that aren't familiar with you or what you do, can you please just give people a rundown of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I am the manager of the most famous studied paranormal hotspot in the world, Skinwalker Ranch. And at my heart, I'm a businessman. That's how I came to be at Skinwalker Ranch. Um, the ranch, the history of the ranch goes back, or the lore, this paranormal lore goes back, decades, if not millennia. And it was owned by the billionaire Robert Bigelow, who also owns Bigelow Aerospace. And it's been the site of a lot of paranormal activity that spans a wide range of phenomena, and everything from cattle mutilations, orbs, reported portals, extinct creatures like dire wolves being on the property, UFOs, poltergeist activity, and so much more. And so I've been there now, going on 10 years. I came on in 2016, April of 2016, and I've been managing the ranch for the owner, Brandon Fugel, ever since. So um, we've been doing a 24/7, 365 investigation where we're just trying to understand the science behind some of the anomalies and the phenomena that we are witnessing.
Yeah, and Skinwalker Ranch to me is kind of like, at least this is the way it's been portrayed, as kind of like the holy grail of weird phenomena that's just been going on. And I mean, you guys have been studying it for a while, and like even before that, I remember watching a documentary that I can't remember the guy's name that did it. He's kind of got the grayish white hair, and being really intrigued by that because I myself have experienced a lot of weird things in different areas, and it's always intriguing to see people looking into this stuff. So one thing that how did actually one thing I want to know is, how did you get involved with this? I mean, what a interesting opportunity.
Yeah, my involvement with the ranch is one of those things I look back on, and it's really made me question, if there's such a thing as coincidences and you know, fate. Because back in 2016, I was a business owner. My wife and I owned a couple small luxury boutique hotels, and I was focused solely on business. I have to say, nowhere in my background had I ever been interested in the whole science fiction or paranormal space. Never watched Star Trek or Star Wars until I was well into my adult years, and so my focus was really business. And it was on a Sunday in April of 2016, first week there, and I actually had a guest from my hotel call me. I happened to be at church with my family, and they called me and said their TV wasn't working. And I asked them. I said, "Is this urgent, or can you guys wait 45 minutes for someone to come help you?" And they're like, "No, man, I'm missing my basketball game." So I uh, I said, "All right, I'll have someone right there." I left church and I went down to the hotel, and we're small. I didn't have a full-time front desk attendant, and so I ran down to fix a problem myself. And it was minor little thing. And then as I was walking out of the room and across the parking lot to my car, a black SUV pulled into the parking lot really slow, and it rolled up to me, and the window came down, and it was a gentleman in there that he looked at me and he said, "Is this a hotel?" And I said, "Yeah." "Can I see one of your rooms?" "Sure." So I showed him a room, and he said, "Yeah, absolutely, we're staying here." So checked him in, went back church. Then the next day, I was down at my office there at the hotel when this gentleman was checking out and came over to find me and thank me for the nice accommodations. We got visiting. He found out that I was a licensed general contractor here in the state of Utah. And he said, "I'm out here representing a wealthy businessman that just purchased a piece of property out here called Skinwalker Ranch. Have you ever heard of it?" Now, growing up in the Uinta Basin, I was well aware of Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, it's been the source of many, many rumors around town and legends and all kinds of crazy stories. So, even though I wasn't in the paranormal, I was well aware of the craziness that had been reported. And at this time, Robert Bigelow had owned it, and there was all kinds of the saying around town is that there was site of secret government operations, and the Pentagon was in there, and NASA. So I'd heard all kinds of stuff, and he said, since you're a licensed contractor, we just barely bought this. This is my first trip out here. Would you mind coming out and doing a property inspection for us and looking at the facilities? And so for me, this businessman happened to be Jim Morse, who anyone that's watched the show will know. Jim's the gentleman that he's not on a lot, but he wears a Pendleton vest. And Jim was the one that brought me on the ranch. And came onto the ranch, found it in a very sad state of disrepair. And there was some items that needed immediate attention, some black mold that was growing in the caretaker's house, a septic system that was failing, a few things that needed to be addressed immediately. So I took the lead on that and got those items taken care of and fixed. And Jim consequently took me out to Salt Lake, introduced me to Brandon, and we hit it off. And he asked me if since I was a local and I had the ability, he just said, would you run it for me? So I've been there ever since, and never dreamed in a million years that it would have turned into what it turned into. If I'm being honest, my excitement to go out there was kind of twofold. One, just the opportunity to go out to this mysterious place that the public had been shut out, just the exclusiveness of it. But also, my main reason is that Jim Morris is a very successful businessman. And of course, Brandon Fugel is a very, very successful businessman. And as a small town business guy myself, I had big city dreams. And I recognize this as an opportunity to maybe develop relationships with the big dogs out in the city. So that was my motivation. It had nothing to do with paranormal.
Absolutely, man. What a cool opportunity. It'd be hard to even imagine passing that one up, especially you living in that area and knowing the lore. This is something that I think I asked you this last time we talked, but I wanted you to expound on it a little bit. But what is the most terrifying thing that you've experienced at Skinwalker Ranch?
I get asked this a lot, and I have to say that after 9 years, that's getting hard to answer because there's been a lot of them. There've been many, many nights I've come home from the ranch and I haven't slept for days because of the things that transpired. But I think maybe the most traumatic one, and I've since divided it up because now I've got a whole bunch of buckets. I've got the most disturbing, the most terrifying. I try to break them down that way, but as far as terrifying, I think the most traumatic one was the one that first caught my attention because I came onto the ranch as pretty much a total skeptic. I really didn't buy into the whole paranormal, thought it was all BS. And, I started having experiences immediately. My first time on the ranch doing an inspection, I had an experience in the ranch house. And I would explain them all away. And, it's probably just this or just that. But I had a event in the summer, for summer, where the caretakers called me one night just terrified. It was about midnight, and they were woken by somebody throwing something against the front of their house. Sounded like they were throwing a basketball. And she called me. She said, "Tom, somebody's outside." Now, this couple was elderly. They were in their 70s, and I told them, "Lock the doors, stay in. We'll get security, and I'll be there in a sec." So I raced out there and rolled into the yard, and the first thing I recognized was that I had been there several hours earlier with Jim Morse, and we had visited with the caretakers, and on our way out the door, there's a little flower planter right there to the right as you walk out, and I happened to look there, and there was a basketball sitting in that planter, and it struck me as odd because we don't have a basketball court on the ranch. There's no kids. This elderly couple's definitely not out there shooting hoops. And so it just seemed kind of an odd item to be sitting in the flower planter right there, but I didn't give much thought to it until I rolled into the ranch late, around midnight. It's a very dark night, and there's the basketball sitting in the middle of the yard. So it had definitely moved from where it was at in the planter. So I assumed that we were dealing with some high school punks that were just out there bored and causing problems. I went in to the command center, grabbed, Brandon had just purchased like a $40,000 FLIR camera, thermal imaging camera, as well as state-of-the-art white phosphorus night vision. I grabbed them. I did a total sweep of the place. I looked everywhere that you could possibly hide a body, and I couldn't find any signs. Not only could I not find anybody, I couldn't find any footprints or anything to indicate that anybody had been there. And so I assumed that as I was coming in, maybe the pranksters that had seen my headlights coming and had got on the road. The road continues across the ranch towards the west, and I thought, oh, they probably ran across the other side when they saw my headlights. So I got in my vehicle and I started to drive across the ranch really slowly. I had my windows down. Again, it's summer night, just creeping across in my Yukon, and I had my shotgun kind of leaning out the window, holding it with one hand, and I was scanning the horizon with the spotlight with my other hand, and then just kind of slowly driving with my knees. And I rolled down into this spot. We now call it the triangle, but at the time, to me, it was nothing. I just rolled down off the canal there when I heard a very clear voice tell me to stop, don't go any further. And I don't know why, like that didn't seem odd to me. I didn't really give it any thought at the time. I just stopped the car. I got out. I blasted a few shots off up into the rocks, hoping to see some punk jump out and start running, and nothing. And so I decided, you know what? They've heard the gunshots. They've seen my light sweeping. They've seen the activity. Whoever's here is long gone. So I went back, told the caretakers, they're gone. Take care. Call me if they come back. Fast forward 6 months. I'm back at the ranch late. I arrived. It was like 11 o'clock when I got there. We had had a massive snowstorm earlier in the day, and I had driven out with my pickup and my gooseneck trailer with my skid steer on it to plow the snow. And so I unloaded out at the entrance by the turnaround where the sign's at, and I started to plow. Took me a couple hours. The snow was so deep, it took multiple passes back and forth on the road to get the snow cleared back far enough. I got all of it plowed down to the ranch house, about a half a mile's worth, got the driveways, everything. And then I decided, it's a peaceful night. I'm wide awake. It was snowing lightly. I had my earbuds in listening to an audiobook, and I was wide awake, and I thought, I'm just going to finish plowing this all the way over to the other side of the ranch so that we can get security back and forth easy. And I began to plow the snow, and as I rolled down into that exact same spot that I'd been 6 months earlier with those trespassers, I heard a clear voice that said, "Stop, don't go any further." Now, if you'd asked me the first time it happened, it sounded completely audible. I thought I heard it with my ears. In this case, I was in my skid steer, and I just kind of turned around and started heading back to the command center. Didn't give it any thought. I'm making my second pass. I get over the command center. I turn around, and I'm making my third pass back over the triangle. And now I've kind of tuned out my audiobook, and I'm thinking about this voice. I'm thinking, that couldn't have been an audible voice. I had my earbuds in. The machine's making a lot of noise. The snowplow's making a lot of noise. You could have been 2 feet away from me and yelled, and I wouldn't have been able to hear you. And so the fact that I'm hearing this clear, audible voice tell me to stop, don't go any further, really stuck out to me. And I was like, okay, that proves that the voice is in my head, and I don't listen to voices in my head. So when I got to the triangle, I just kept going, and I just kept plowing. I only traveled another 100 or 200 feet at the most when all of a sudden I started to have a severe physiological reaction. My hands started to shake. My muscles started to contract extremely tight. I had an overwhelming fear overtake me. And I was shaking so bad and so terrified, I could barely control the machine. I turned it around and started making my escape. Got out to my trailer out clear on the other edge of the property. And by that time, the skid steer moved so low, but so slow. And by that time, I was so terrified. I didn't even slow down when I hit my trailer ramps, and I almost overshot the trailer. I bailed out of the skid steer. My chains are still only chained to one side of the trailer. My ramps are still down. The machine's still running. The headlights are still on. And I didn't care. I just jumped in my truck and I gunned it. I wasn't even in my right state of mind. And I drove all the way out to the main road, turned on the main road, and headed towards Fort Duchesne. before I finally stopped. I jumped out long enough to throw my ramps up and throw the chains on and turn the machine off. I didn't chain the machine down. I didn't have the required motor skills to even get the chains back through the machine. I just boogied for home. I ran in, jumped under the covers, and I'm sitting there shaking so bad. My wife woke up and she's like, "What's going on?" And I couldn't answer. She just assumed that I got so chilled out there plowing snow that I just had full body chills. But I continued to shake uncontrollably for the next 12 hours. It was well into the afternoon of the following day before that wore off. And I don't know what it was. I had no control over it, but it was extremely terrifying to think that I'd never experienced fear or terror like that. And that really is kind of one of those moments on the ranch for which I couldn't just easily explain away what just happened, right? And so it kind of forced me to start coming around to the idea that there was something happening there that was unexplainable.
You mentioned the triangle area in a lot of your guys' episodes. This area has been associated with very strange things. One of the things that you had mentioned in your presentation was the drones being, I believe this is the same area, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were flying. You had multiple drones. I can't remember exactly how many. And you showed in this video that they all just kind of started dropping out of the sky. And there was other weird things associated with that. Is that normal for this area all the time, or is this just random when you guys are testing, or do you guys just never go to that area?
So the triangle has really kind of become the epicenter of our investigation based on the data that we've gathered. It continues to be truly a very undescribable place, really. Yeah, I'm having a hard time even thinking the words to describe the amount of activity. As you just said, we had what we call Droneageddon, which is something caused hundreds of drones to fall out of the sky dangerously. Some of them even chased us. Some of them it felt very targeted. And the behind the scenes to that was quite disturbing as well. But then you start looking at and compiling that with all the other data that we've gathered there. We've had LiDAR that gets blocked, and anyone that knows how LiDAR works, I mean, how do you send LiDAR out and not have it come back with any data as if there's a portal there? Strange signals, energies, you name it. So the triangle is very active. Definitely one of our main focuses on our investigation is what's going on there, the triangle.
You mentioned something with the drones behind the scenes part of that, and I don't know if you can talk about that, but if you can, like, what are you, because that's the one that intrigues me the most, because I've operated drones and stuff, and it's strange to me the actual scenario that you explained taking place, that the GPS showed that it almost like it transported to another part of the ranch. Am I correct in saying that? I mean, what's some of the stuff you can insights into that? Because that story was so intriguing to me.
Yeah, well, to set that up, we've got another place on the ranch called the East Canyon area that we have collected some data to indicate that it's connected to the triangle and some of the phenomena that's happening. So this particular experiment, our idea was to take this drone show. We put, I believe we had 600 drones in the triangle and 400 drones in the East Canyon. And I may have got that flipped, but
That's a lot, because I saw a drone show with 500 drones and I was amazed. That's a lot of drones.
it is a lot of drones. And Sky Elements is the leading, foremost expert drone company in the United States. They do it globally, and they have by far the most sophisticated equipment, most sophisticated drones. They are leading everybody else. That's why we wanted them out. So we wanted the best that we could get, and they've assisted us several times now in our investigation. Each drone is a precision GPS device with not just GPS trackers, but also other sensors as well connecting to the Wi-Fi and the radio frequency signals that are being sent from the ground. So it can provide us with a lot of data. It's like having 600 scientific instruments up in the air at the same time, taking measurements, and because they're so visible, it's also very easy to see when we're having some discrepancies. So this experiment really was to take aim at that, and the behind the scenes that doesn't show is it takes a long time to set up 600 drones and get them operational. And so preparation for this show began early in the morning and continued throughout the day with the intention that we would start the show after dark. As a team, we have our own scientific instruments that we set up, and we have our own monitoring stations that we get ready, and we got them ready. But then we kind of had some free time while the drone guys were doing their thing. And Eric Bard, the principal investigator, and I were talking, and look, this is season 5 of the show, but this is I mean, that would have been out on the ranch for what, 8 years at that point, or 7 years. That's a long time to be on the ranch. And Eric and I started to talk, and we were saying, if all the ranch can do is just kind of interfere with our instruments, interfere with our electronics, cause batteries to drain prematurely, I mean, that's cool, but that trick's gotten old really quick. And if that's the best the ranch can do, we're just not impressed anymore. And we were talking about this out loud back and forth to each other, just kind of joking around in jest, and we started to say, ranch, if you want to impress me, then you'll drop the drones from the sky. We want to see complete chaos. We want to see drones dropping. We want to see them bursting into flames. And we're like, we want complete total pandemonium. Like, that's what would get my attention. And so that we, in a way, and we got pretty spirited about it. And I, at one point I was like, come on, ranch, man, if you wanna impress me, drop these drones from the sky. And I'll never forget Preston. Preston is one of the owners of Sky Elements, and he's the pilot of the drones in this show. And he looked over at me and he's like, don't say that. You have no idea how expensive those drones are. He's all, I can't afford any of these drones to be dropping. So we start the show, and then what ends up happening? They get up to 31 feet, and all of a sudden these drones just start dropping by the hundreds. And some of them don't drop. We had one, Eric put his personal GPS tracker on one. We chose one drone at random and attached his GPS tracker to it. Well, while the rest of the drones are dropping, that drone drops down below the tent level. We were under a tent canopy, and the drones start dropping, and I run and duck and cover under the tent, and thinking the tent's not even going to be strong enough to stop these drones. I started to dive down to kind of under the table, and I look up to see, that everybody else is okay. And there's our camera guy, not even flinching, and he's got the camera trained on me, and I see this drone slowly descend below the level of the tent, and then start working, and then start coming into the tent, and its blades were the same level as our camera guy's neck. And I'm like, oh, it was,
yeah.
like, holy shit, if that hits his neck, it'll kill him. And so I jump back up. I had like this canvas jacket, this Levi jacket that I took off, and I used it to force the drone to the ground, and then beat it out to get it to turn off. And that drone,
and that's the kind of guy. That's the kind of guy you are too. But a lot of people don't know this. But at the conference, I noticed somebody had I don't know what happened exactly. I could hear in the distance somebody had fallen out, and you were like the one, man. You were running to take care of these people. So, is that part of your background too? Just not to interrupt, but
I just have a gift. I think it's just an innate ability. I've been on the scene of several very traumatic accidents, and I've been witness to some traumatic events, and I don't know why, but at least in the past when those events have occurred, it's almost as if things slow down
Mhm.
for me. It's like everything's in half speed. And so I'm able, like, I don't know why my mind just kicks in and says, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that. And so for me, when the trauma kicks in, time slows down for me. And I'm grateful for it because it's made me very effective in some very scary situations.
Figured you
But
had
yeah,
prior military training or something. You were ready to rock, man. Like you were the one on action. But anyways, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut
yeah.
you off. I just
Well,
was curious.
I did take 12 years of martial arts, so I am a
There
second
you go.
degree black belt martial artist, and maybe that
What kind of
training is what did it. I don't know, but
what do you jujitsu? What do you do?
Shotokan.
Shotokan. Okay, very cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
so I mean it was a crazy night, but that those drones they have three built-in geofences, and what we diagnosed later is we started, doing the forensics on this huge mishap where that saw hundreds of drones fall out of the sky, not just here in the triangle, but also over in the East Canyon. Um,
mm,
there was a couple weird the drones over in the East Canyon literally chased Travis and Caleb or Travis and Bryant outside of the geofence area. Now these geofences are like an imaginary boundary that they set up, and there's three of them. And when it gets to the first boundary, then the drone receives a signal that it needs to land immediately, and it should just come down and land. If
mhm,
it hits the second geofence, uh, the first one, it tells it to go back and land at home. The second one, it just gives it the instruction to land right where it's at, controlled. And if it hits the very outer boundary, it gets the signal, just it cuts the power and it just drops.
mhm,
The interesting thing is that we had these drones running all outside of the geofences, but for whatever reason, the ones that fell from the sky and dropped, when they got up to that 30-foot mark, they received a GPS heading that made them believe they were a half a mile away over in the East Canyon, which put them
mhm,
automatically outside of that third geofence, and it cut the power and they dropped.
mhm.
So, there was an explanation for why they did it, but why the GPS was spoofed like that, that's still a mystery.
No, I was in Lebanon about a year ago, and when I was in Tripoli and we were traveling from Tripoli, somebody was messing with the GPSs there too, to where it would route you different ways through checkpoints and all of that. And I wonder, like, so I think I remember you talking about this. Maybe it was all in my head, but you were talking about how some of the drones had different countries' global position satellites, and maybe they were affected differently. Is that true, or am I remembering
Yes.
something false?
No, that's correct. As we were doing the diagnostics on this event, the one thing that stood out to us is that every single drone, without exception, that fell from the sky, these are the drones that had the GPS error that led them to believe that they had suddenly jumped a half a mile away. They were only operating off of the US and the European GPS systems. Um, the ones that stayed up in the air, albeit they still crossed the geofence, but they didn't crash, are the ones that had all four GPS systems, which includes the US, the European, the Russian, and the Chinese. So we found it very interesting that the drones that had the Chinese and the Russian GPS sensors did not fail, and the
Mhm.
ones that didn't were the ones that dropped. So it's got some scary implications when you think about that.
Yeah.
If what about the Chinese and the Russian? And we don't know. It could have been just the Chinese, or it could have been the Russian. We're not sure. All we know is that ones with those two systems stayed up, and it leads you to ask the question, what's different about their GPS system than the U.S. and the European one?
Absolutely. That was something that just struck me as a very weird coincidence. Let's put it that way. Man, when you think about the structure under the ground, I don't remember exactly the conclusion to that, if you guys ever came to a conclusion. Um, but what do you what does your gut say is there in all of this thing? Like, what does your gut say? I know that there's all kinds of different ideas it could be. I mean, obviously, it could be some kind of spiritual thing. It could be a physical thing. It could be a technological thing. It could be a foreign entity or whatever. But what does your gut tell you? Not what everybody else thinks, but what does your gut tell you?
Well, just because there's such a so many things out there, first I need to clarify with you. Are you referring to the object that we found in the mesa, or are you referring to the other anomalies that we are seeing underground elsewhere on the ranch?
So I noticed that, okay, so one of the biggest things was you guys found the anomaly under the ranch. That was one of the first things. And then you drilled into the side of the mesa, and your drill pretty much was welded together, but also cooled at the same time, which was very strange. But you've had other anomalies. I mean, what do you think is what it is, man? Is it a foreign entity, or is it a supernatural? What is this?
Well, I'll start off by saying that I'm a firm belief that it's artificial. So whatever's in there is not natural. Um, the list of items that we have pulled out of that mesa is incredible. We've pulled out large quantities of very, very thin uniform manufactured metal. That it has a different makeup on one side than on the other. It's about the size, it's about the thickness of card stock. We've pulled out magnetic, or what seems to be river stones that are magnetic. We found some green jelly that had char in it, and remains of plants for which University of Utah dated back to wetlands here millions of years ago. And in the same in the same goo that the plant species was in, we're finding pieces of charcoal as if something was burned in this wetland. We recently, season 6 is just, we pulled out what appears to be ceramic. And this ceramic is 100% artificial. There's no way it's natural. And so when you start making a list, we found a 1964 nickel in there. Now, I'll tell you the hardest thing I have about this whole exercise is when you look at the amount of things that have come out of that drill hole, the idea that a 7-inch drill bit drilling blindly in there, trying to just bore up to the top, would hit the exact spot that this stuff is in. The ceramic, maybe there's a lot of it in there. The metal, maybe there's a lot of metal in there. But to hit this 1964 nickel, statistics would tell you that would mean that there's millions and millions of nickels in that hill to be able to hit that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our archaeologist has indicated that throwing a dated coin in is a standard technique, standard order of operation for an archaeological dig. When they're ready to cover it back in, they'll throw a coin in with the year. If that's
So
the
that tells
case
you that
here,
somebody might have actually excavated that in 64. Is that what you're thinking?
well, it definitely gives us a time range to go look at. And interestingly enough, when we go to the U.S. Geological Surveys, the surveys stop in 1963 and pick up again in 1969. So there's a 6-year period there that there are no records. As was just shown on the show, when Travis did an analysis pixel by pixel with using AI, the AI's opinion is that the 1960, I can't remember which image, I get them mixed up, but the images have been doctored. All right. So it does lead to the question, is what's inside the mesa part of some kind of government cover up? But again, the hardest part for me is the odds that let's say there was an archaeological dig or some kind of recovery there, and some archaeologist just out of habit throws his 1964 coin into that. what's the odds that we on a drilling exercise would hit exactly in that mesa? Those millions of cubic feet of dirt, we hit the exact spot where that coin is at. I mean, it's just the odds are so astronomical. It's hard for a skeptical mind like mine to wrap around it. What does it all mean?
Absolutely.
What's in there? After discovery of the nickel, like if my mind would allow me to believe that, I would say that what we probably are onto is some type of reentry vehicle that was lost during the whole 60s Cold War race to the moons era. And there was some type of cave there, and they shoved it in there and collapsed the cave down on itself, feeling like it would be safe. And we came onto the ranch with the narrative that bad things happen when you dig, and we were told that that was told to the Shermans by the Myers. The Myers were the ones that lived on the place in the '60s, and we always thought like, ooh, it's like paranormals. You dig, and some ghost boogeyman's gonna jump out. Uh, you know, something. I'm being a little bit facetious there, but the point is after finding what we found, I have to wonder, did I misinterpret the way that was said? Could it have been government came in, put it in there, and then threatened the Myers and said, if you dig, bad things will happen to you, right? Like we will come back and we will get you. So
Mm.
maybe it was said differently than we received it. It definitely leaves a lot of questions, but
Absolutely.
so my personal belief right now, that's something I can kind of wrap my head around, that maybe there was a reentry vehicle that came down in rural Utah, and rather than try to ship it out, they just shoved it in the mesa and used some dynamite to drop the cave, and there you go. Because we do have some very credible witnesses that claim to have been in a cave in that location, back when they were kids back in the '60s. So
Yeah.
there is some evidence to suggest that, and that's probably what I would go with right now.
Yeah, it seems that a lot of the stuff, like you look at some of the technology that's out there, it seems like it could be pretty advanced technology for sure. I want to read something to you. I did a presentation and it was about AI, and I want to read this because I was curious. I asked Grok this question. I'll read the question to you. It says, how would you ensure that technology could reach a point that you were able to interact again one day? And this is under the assumption that the end of the world is taking place, it's going into hiding, and it wants to reemerge someday. So here's the 5-step plan that it gave me. It says, I would etch durable, universal symbols into stone, like geometric shapes and binary patterns, to convey fundamental principles of computing and technology. I would design these symbols to be intuitive, using pictographs that represent concepts like energy, circuits, or data flow, translatable across cultures. I would incorporate the symbols into resilient structures like pyramid-like architecture to ensure they survive environmental and societal collapse. I would encode step-by-step instructions for rebuilding basic tech such as transistors or simple computers with a symbol sequence for future discoveries. And number 5, I would place these structures in multiple global locations to increase the chances of survivors finding and interpreting them when technology reemerges. And before I had talked about using nanotech in some of my other slides, nanotech to heal itself using a small nuclear generator, using different pulses to keep people away, using different signals to confuse people, and creating protocol to interact with all of the technology that is used around it to kind of keep it secret, and then also give technology to people through various means in order to grow the technology to a point to where it could emerge. And in my mind, I'm thinking, like, as soon as I thought of that, I thought of Skinwalker Ranch. And I also thought of the movie Tron, where Tron creates this boss of his system, and the AI system boss finds that Tron's a threat to the system as well, and it just keeps perpetuating itself. And then recently we've seen AI articles where the AI has actually blackmailed its creators to stay alive. I mean, is any of this like ring a bell to you, or have you guys thought about the AI possibility there?
I could tell you, we've spent a lot of time offline visiting amongst ourselves and, going over the possibilities. And I really value the behind the scenes offline conversations because it allows us to be very open without fear of damaging reputations or ridicule.
Absolutely.
I could say that these exact things that you've brought up, even the Tron, those are discussions that have definitely taken place as we scratch our heads and try to make sense of what it is that we're witnessing and experiencing.
Yeah. It reminds me of like I can't remember what I think when I say it's like a Nag Hammadi library text where kind of this entity is created to rule the realm, and it just ends up I mean, it's just like the movie Tron. It's basically the story of Tron. And so you just have to wonder how advanced civilizations were prior to this. I'm a Bible, I believe in the Bible, and I look at Genesis 6, and when you see the sons of God came to the daughters of men and had children, the same were mighty men of old, men of renown. And then you see like the book of Enoch where they taught the children of men all of the different technologies. And you look at men like Tesla who claim to receive this technology from the air, basically through certain things. It's just, you wonder how much of that is real through all of that. Before all this, you probably didn't even think about any of those things. Has this changed your thoughts on the spiritual at all?
Yeah, the last 9 years have really fundamentally changed the way that I view the world, the way I interact with the world, um, my beliefs in the world and its operations, I guess. Um, I still consider myself a spiritual person. Grew up very religious, something I'm grateful for. But now I definitely am a believer in a higher power. But yeah, I mean, the ranch and what I've witnessed, what I've experienced has definitely changed the way I think about things, all the way down to my core beliefs for sure.
Mm. In what ways specifically can you mention that have just like kind of shifted your ideology a little bit?
Um,
If if
one
you're
of
comfortable sharing those things,
yeah,
I know a lot of people really hate to talk about those things because they can cause, people to be like divisive over it, but I'm just curious.
yeah, I'm less worried about that. I think for me, the hard part is accurately communicating what it is that finding the right words to accurately communicate. I've attempted before with, family or friends, close loved ones, and I always walk away feeling like, man, I butchered that. It causes me a lot of self-reflection on like, you know, they say that if you understand something well, you should be able to communicate it in a third grade level, right? And if you can't explain it at third grade level, you don't understand it. And that leaves me asking a lot of questions about even my core beliefs, my personal beliefs, like how much do I really understand of them if I can't easily explain it? So my reluctance is less about being ridiculed. I mean, the last 6 years on television has really necessitated that I develop a very strong, thick skin, and so I've become very good at really kind of shutting out the noise, drowning out You're always going to have haters and critics and skeptics, and I used to be one of those skeptics, so I'd actually I resonate with them very well. And when they get some of them have gotten pretty mean and nasty. I understand, where it's coming from. And it's scary the easy belief for me. It's one of the reasons I love the faith that I grew up in is when you have a faith you can cling to, it makes it very safe and very easy. It's very easy to believe in that. Very safe. It feels warm and cuddly. And when you come across, when you have life experiences and you witness things that challenge those beliefs, if you decide to go ahead and say, well, I'm going to be intellectually honest about this and just look at the data and take the emotion out, and what does it tell me? Where does it lead me? That can be very, very scary, right? Because if during that discovery phase you find that maybe some of your beliefs that you had held on to just don't hold up to very intense scrutiny, and they start to fall, the claims start to fall apart at any kind of uh, follow through, it's almost like a free fall because you start to think, well, if that's not true, then what else isn't true, and what is true, and what is reality, and it becomes very it's very easy to have a freak out moment. So the path that I'm on now is a scary one. It's one that requires a whole different level of faith in you know rather than buying into a narrative, um, and that's the easy path to take. That rather than that, saying, okay, whether it's scary or not, I'm going to dive into it. And I think my head injury in 2017, where I almost died, really had to face mortality, and then all of the events that surrounded that, both during and after it, and the investigation that followed, shook me so bad that it forced me. I could no longer. I couldn't reconcile my beliefs with what I had just been through, and I couldn't sleep with that kind of dissonance inside of me. And it forced me to finally accept. You know what? I may not understand it all, but I do understand there's a lot more to this world than we understand, and I have to accept the fact that there's unexplainable things out there. And I imagine, if we took a flashlight back 500 years and turned it on, that would have been pretty impressive to the masses. They didn't understand, they didn't know about electricity or how it worked. And so the idea that you could summon light with the flick of a switch, that would have been very paranormal to them. And today, because we understand the principles it operates under, it's not a big deal. But and so my hope is that even though right now I don't understand where that light's coming from and the flicking on and off, hopefully the goal is down the road in the future we'll start to gain some understanding, and then hopefully we'll be sitting around ribbing each other and saying, wasn't that funny when you thought that flashlight was paranormal? I mean, that's
Mhm.
pretty hilarious, right? So that's kind of the
Yeah.
goal, is hopefully to get some answers.
It's amazing to me when you look at technology just for what it is in general. Like you said, if you were to bring out just something as simple as a flashlight, you'd probably be considered a wizard back, hundreds of years ago. But when I look at like this technology and I see things, I used to do tool and die, and so we would
Mm.
build things at like a very small tolerance, and that was considered a secret art at one time. Like they had to pay engineers and stuff to go over to China and Japan to show them how to do it. Right before that, like getting a journeyman, getting somebody to teach you to do it, was they were very guarded in their secrets. But and it's still a very complex process. You're talking about trigonometry. You're talking about a very complex process to make that. But when I look at these microchips and you see them zoomed in for, so close that it makes a hair follicle look giant. They keep going, and there's these highways and byways of circuits and silicon and, crystals. Um, I look at these things and I think there's, as many engineers that I know that are very smart people, considered geniuses on many levels. My father-in-law, like, to me, he's one of the smartest guys I've ever seen. I don't know how you can be much smarter, genius level IQ. When they look at these things, it's just like, it doesn't make sense. And even the people that have created it, they look at them and they think, they know what they've put it together, but they don't really understand why it works. The quantum computing, um, it just makes me wonder if these old stories of these titans, of these watchers, of whatever these guys are, and you see the idea of this ship moving supposedly closer to the earth. I don't know how they can tell what that is or whatever. It's hard to even tell what you guys are looking at underneath the Skinwalker Ranch, but they can supposedly see this, major craft and even know what they look like on it. But you see all of these narratives coming together to tell a story of some sort. And the problem is we live in 2025 where you can't trust or believe anything you see. everything's a fabrication. Like almost all the pictures you see are fake. I mean, my goodness, this is a time of great struggle, and I think it's important to stay open-minded and allow God to just hopefully teach us the truth about all this, because we're not going to find it in this world of lies. And it's really important to, you know, like yourself, when you see things happen, it's going to lead you a certain way. And I believe this is my faith. I believe God leads all men to the truth, and whether they're able to accept it or not eventually is going to be one of those decisions they're going to have to live with. But I feel like, you know, for each person, they're going to come to some kind of knowledge of what all of this is before they die. And hopefully it's not guided by the world's narrative is what I'm going to say on that. So I know we've gone not quite an hour, and I really want to have you back to talk about it a little bit more, but I found that the attention span of people is that of a little bit better than a gnat nowadays. And so I would like to end it on a really high note here. Tell people how they can reach you, how they can support what you're doing. And if you want them to reach you, I know you don't want everybody contacting. You're like me. If you gave everybody out your contact, you'd be like overwhelmed with. You're a big deal, Mr. Winterton. So you've got a lot of people already contacting you. But how can people help you out? Check out what you're doing, and I'll put the link in the description as well.
Our big thing is we have our website, skinwalker-ranch.com. And we encourage people to go there and sign up to become one of our insiders. It's a subscription-based platform where the money goes back into helping the investigation. Brandon hasn't taken a penny for this effort. Science is very expensive, and more than that, it's very intensive. So for every 1 hour of the day, you know, we're collecting so much data. You look at the number of surveillance cameras out there. Sure, we are employing AI to help us quickly scrub through data. Eric Barr, the principal investigator, has created unbelievable software to help us comb through this, but nothing beats the human eye. And so our insiders are able to go in and have access to live feeds from the ranch, as well as so much of the data that where they can help us. Our insiders have helped us catch so many events that we would have missed otherwise. So that's one way they can help, is become part of our insider team. They could check us out at our website. My wife has a website, melissawinterton.com. She's a meditation expert, is doing amazing things with sound and frequency, and go look her up and check out the cool things she's doing. But and we've got a cruise coming up in January, so we're inviting everybody to come join us in the Caribbean, and we'll get over the Christmas hangover together, January 4th through the 11th. So we're gonna go cruise through the Bermuda Triangle. So people can check that out as well. So
fantastic. That sounds awesome, man. And like I said, we'll have you on hopefully again here whenever you get an opportunity. I know you're very busy, and but I would love to talk to you about more things. There's a lot of stuff I didn't even get a chance to get to, but I know that it'll make for an awesome conversation next time. So I want to thank you, Thomas, for coming on, and I appreciate all of your insights into what we're looking at here. It is, and I would love to one day, this is a dream of mine, and if you can make it happen, I'll give you a big high five, but I'd love to see Skinwalker Ranch. So if that ever can happen, I would give you the biggest high five ever. I know that's a big, I know that's something you really need, but there we go.
The world keeps lying, but he won't retreat on his quest for truth. Yeah. Truth, quest for truth. They can't stop me, they can't block me. Moving through, got that fire, they can't block me. Quest for truth, breaking chains.